Hey everybody. There's a lot of superhero TV shows coming out this week, and I thought to myself, why don't I talk about a superhero TV show that really captivated me at one point in my life? And that show is Smallville. To me, there are a lot of great episodes of Smallville, and to really try to capture what I love about Smallville, I guess, instead of doing a regular top 10, I am going to do my favorite episode of each season. Since there are 10 seasons, that's perfect for a top 10 list. So these episodes are not in like a least favorite to favorite order. These episodes are in season 1 through 10 order. So some of these episodes would be in my top 10 if I was doing a regular top 10 list, but I'm not doing that list. So just be aware that this is not my least favorite to favorite. This is more of a season 1 through 10. My favorite episodes in each of those seasons. So with that being said, let us begin. From season 1, there are a lot of great episodes, but the ones that really stick out for me was Hourglass, where an old woman could touch people and she could see into their future, and it was a great insight into who Clark Kent and Lex Luthor were gonna be. There was also the finale, Tempest, but I think when I really think about season 1, the episode that really sticks out to me the most is the pilot. I think the pilot was probably one of my favorite pilots of all time. What I really liked about it was how it set up the characters, who they are, got us to really care about them, especially Clark Kent, who we all knew as Superman. It was really hard because, like, could they do the beginnings of Smallville? Could they do the beginnings of Superman without the cape, without, everything that we knew what makes Superman Superman? Could they pull that off? And the pilot really showed that yes, you can pull that off. And I love the pilot. And today it's still one of my favorite pilots, right up there with the Lost pilot. It's just a fantastic first episode that I felt brought everything and set everything up all together. And that's why I still truly love it. I think there's a lot of iconic moments in the pilot of Smallville that really, really set things high for superhero pilots everywhere. Like, to me, Gotham did not beat it. Arrow did not beat it. And I'm looking forward to the Flash, but I don't think that one's gonna beat it either. Maybe it could. Maybe it will surprise me. The funny thing is, David Nutter was the director of the episode. And for those of you that don't know, he was also the director of Arrow's pilot and the upcoming Flash's pilot. So he definitely knows how to direct these episodes and give some really strong images that will stand out when you go back and remember those first episodes. So with season 2, it was also hard to pick my favorite one. Like the episode Red, where Red Kryptonite is introduced for the first time, that one sticks out a lot. But when it really comes down to it, I had to pick Rosetta, which was towards the end of the episode. And the reason I picked it is because of one of the biggest moments, in my opinion, of all time through the series, where Christopher Reeve guest stars on Smallville. And, it was just such a great feeling and moment watching this for the first time. And I mean, this is a passing of the torch episode, and that's what really made it strong and memorable. And hearing the John Williams Superman score, like, just gave me chills. I remember. I love that episode so much. One of my all-time favorites for sure. Another one in season 3 that I really loved was Memoria. It was between this one and Asylum, which I really liked. The episode where Lex gets shock therapy from his father. It was such a tragic episode. But the reason why I like Memoria more, it's kind of a follow-up to Asylum and Shattered, where Lex is trying to retrieve the memories that he lost because of what happened in Asylum. And The highlight of the episode, though, is not Lex's memories. Even though it's a great focus on Lex, it's also a great focus on Clark, because Clark remembers where he came from. He actually sees his parents. He doesn't see their faces, but he hears their voices and sees their hands, which for us viewers, it's a great moment. Clark seeing his mother for the first time and feeling her warmth, and then having that discussion with Martha later in the barn. It was such a beautiful episode, nicely done, and definitely one of my all-time favorites also. In Season 4, I'm going to pick Transference. Season 4 is where I felt that was one of my least favorite seasons. But even the least favorite seasons for me have their episodes and have their moments. And for Season 4, the one that really sticks out the most is Transference. This is an episode where Clark and Lionel Luthor, Lex's father, switch bodies. And John Glover, who plays Lionel Luthor, and Tom Welling, who plays Clark Kent, these two, they really show their strengths at actors. And especially Tom Welling, he shows how far he has come since Season 1. Because in Season 1, he was alright. By Season 4, you can see he is growing as an actor. And the thing that the writers, I think, like to do a lot is to allow their actors to do different things. And by doing that, they have a lot of these personality switching episodes where the characters switch personalities. Either with a device like red kryptonite or something like that. And Tom Welling, you can tell the guy has so much fun playing Bad Clark. And Bad Clark is fun to watch. You want to see Tom Welling let loose. You want to see Clark Kent let loose on his powers with no morals. And it's a lot of fun seeing that. And with this, it's Lionel Luthor inside Clark's body. So you're seeing Lionel Luthor in control. And both of these actors do such a great job at playing the other roles that you can tell this was a fun episode to do. And one of my favorite moments was in the prison scene where Clark, or Lionel, however you want to look at it, confronts him to get his body back. And it's such a great moment because there's a riot going on in the prison, and there's this like cool soundtrack going on that I actually downloaded. It's probably like one of the few Smallville tracks that I went on iTunes to look for and download because I love that track so much. It was such a great moment too, and such a great episode. If you haven't seen it, check it out. In Season 5, I'm going with an obvious episode. There's a lot of great moments in Season 5, but I think the best episode, probably for sure one of my top 5 episodes of all time, Reckoning, where it is the 100th episode of Smallville, where they celebrate obviously 100 episodes, and everybody knew that eventually Jonathan Kent was going to die. We just didn't know when. And when the 100th episode was coming, it was announced that a character was going to die, and I had a feeling it was going to be Jonathan Kent. But the episode made you think it was Lana. And they actually did a really beautiful job at setting everything up. They even gave hints that Jonathan was going to be the one. So I think people that knew Jonathan's death was coming, I think they knew, okay, this is going to be a trick. They're going to make us think it's going to be Lana, but it's actually going to be Jonathan. And at one point, they even make you think it's going to be Lois, because Lois was introduced in Season 4. And so at the end, it was Jonathan. And it was one of my favorite all-time favorite moments for sure, because the acting in the episode was beautiful, the cinematography was beautiful, the lighting, everything about this episode was gorgeous to look at, and it was probably one of Smallville's most finest moments. And bravo to John Schneider, who played Jonathan Kent. I think he did a fantastic job, as well as the rest of the cast. So yeah, definitely one of my all-time favorites. Season 6, I'm going to pick Justice. Why? Because Justice, even though there's a lot of great episodes in this season, but Justice was the Justice League episode where the Flash, Green Arrow, Cyborg, Aquaman are, they were all set up in previous seasons. The Flash, or Impulse, whatever you want to call him, was introduced in Season 4. Aquaman was introduced early Season 5. Cyborg was introduced late season 5, and Green Arrow was introduced in this season, season 6, early on, and he guest starred on a couple of episodes leading up to this one. And it kind of reminds me of what Marvel's been doing since 2008. These episodes aired before Iron Man even came out. Justice came out in 2006 or 2007. So this was a little bit before Iron Man even came out, and Marvel started doing their things by introducing characters and having them all unite in the Avengers. Smallville did it first. I just want to point that out. And it's pretty cool because, yeah, they did introduce each of these characters individually, and then they had this huge episode where all of them came back and teamed up with Clark to stop one of Lex's schemes. And it was just a fun episode, seeing all these characters interact, and Green Arrow, by that point, we loved Green Arrow. He was like the Batman-centric character, if you really think about it. And all around, the only thing that weakened the episode a little bit was the ending where Lois and Oliver had their little breakup. But I guess that's a requirement from the CW. But other than that, the episode is fantastic. I loved it all the way. Season 7, I'm going to go with Descent. The Veritas story arc is one of my all-time favorite story arcs throughout the series. And this one, you can tell season 7 was supposed to be... It felt like it was going to be the last season. It felt like it was really building up to something. It was closing a lot of doors, closing a lot of loose ends that they had throughout the series. And the Veritas story arc was really the best arc that they ever had, I think. And Descent is the one where Lex finally gets rid of his good self. Like he is saying in this episode, I am evil, that's it. And one of the things that really solidifies that deal is that he kills his father, Lionel Luthor. This is the episode where Lionel Luthor finally dies. And man, it was such an intense episode. I loved it. The acting, the characters, the character development. Lex had a lot of build up throughout the years, and definitely Lex and Lionel have been, in my opinion, some of the most interesting characters. That's not to take away from Clark Kent or Chloe or Lana or Lois or any of those other characters, but Lex for sure, in my opinion, was the most interesting because he had a lot of conflict. Like Star Wars, the prequels, they had Anakin like building up to become the evil Darth Vader that we all knew. I don't think they did a good job with Anakin like they did with Lex. And maybe that's unfair because Smallville is a TV show, so they can take their time exploring that character. And they did a fantastic job with Lex Luthor. And this episode really was well worth the wait if you wanted to see Lex become the villain that he's meant to become. Season 8, I'm going with Legion. Legion is a fun episode directed by Jeff Johns, who is known for doing a lot of comic books. He's definitely the one in charge right now of DC Entertainment, and he's doing a fantastic job, helping out with The Flash, Arrow, Gotham, Constantine, helping out with the movies. He's the one, he's like the Kevin Feige, I guess, of DC Entertainment right now. And to show how great he is when he has strong involvement, this episode is definitely one of my all-time favorite Smallville episodes. And it's a fun episode where the Legion from the year, I think they were from 3002 or something. They were from the year 3000-ish. And they had to come back in time to save Clark Kent because a villain who escaped from prison went back in time to try to kill him. Obviously, when they are back there, they find out that this is the day that Brainiac pulls some big shit. and they find out that something was broken that Clark was supposed to use to defeat Brainiac. So they stay to try to fix things because if they go back, the future might be screwed up. And it's such a great episode. There's actually an episode of Superman the Animated Series that's very similar to this. And I'm guessing there's a comic book that's very similar to this as well. I don't read much comics, so I wouldn't know. But there is an animated episode where, again, the characters are even very similar. They have Cosmic Boy and Saturn Girl. The only difference is Lightning Lad. Instead of Lightning Lad, they have Chameleon Boy in the animated episode. But it's still, both episodes are really cool. Both of them involve Brainiac too. And again, this is the episode that really got me to see how great of an actress Allison Mack is as Chloe. Because she was playing Brainiac in this episode, because Brainiac had possessed her. And you can see, like, wow, she must have went back and looked at some of James Marsters' acting abilities as Brainiac, because she really got some of his mannerisms down. And she did a fantastic job. And again, this is an episode that proves to me why I love Smallville. And season 8 is probably my least favorite season, but this is one of my all-time favorite episodes. So, just saying. Season 9, I'm going to go with Absolute Justice. This is actually a 2-part episode where they combined 2 episodes and called it a TV movie. And I can see why, because it feels very... I don't want to say cinematic, but it feels bigger than a usual typical episode. Because not only did they have one superhero guest starring, they have 3. Plus a lot of cameos and references to the comics in this episode. This is where Clark, Green Arrow, and Martian Manhunter team up with the Justice Society of America. Not the Justice League, the Justice Society. In the books, the Justice Society is pretty much this team that is formed before the Justice League. And that's what they are here too. And the members that we get focus on in this episode is Hawkman, Dr. Fate, and Stargirl. And I love, besides Stargirl, who I thought was really weak, Hawkman and Dr. Fate are the highlight characters in this. And there's a lot of great moments too. I mean, like, we see Martian Manhunter actually for the first time since he was introduced in season 6. We see him transform into his form that we all know, his green Martian form. Even though it's for a split second, it was really cool and a nice wink for the fans. There are a lot of references to the comics. Like, we even get a couple references to other characters too. So finally we get to season 10. And what is my all-time favorite episode in this season? It's not the finale, I'm gonna tell you that much. Like many people, I was kind of disappointed with the finale. I wouldn't say it was like horrible. If I had to rate it, I'd give it an 8 out of 10. So, but yes, of course, we kind of felt cheated on when we didn't get to see Tom Welling actually in the suit. They pulled a Green Lantern on us, and they had him in a like CGI suit, which didn't even look that great. But for what it was a good finale, and it was satisfying the way it ended the characters. The episode I am going to pick, though, is actually another milestone episode, the 200th episode. I felt this episode really connected well back to the 100th episode where Jonathan Kent died. And it really showed Clark his past, present, and future. And it was a lot of fun seeing that, especially the past segment where Clark finally got to see what happened on his father's last night alive. And to see that from a different perspective, because Clark had been blaming himself for a lot of things, and his father's death definitely was the start of that. And it was great finally having Clark let go of that guilt, like showing him that this wasn't his fault, and and seeing his future too, giving him hope that, wow, my future can be like this one day. That was also a lot of fun. And obviously we didn't get to see his future self in the Superman suit, but we got to see the red and blue blur, flying in the air. So that was a lot of fun, and it was such a great episode, kind of like It's a Wonderful Life. It definitely was a fantastic, nicely done episode from beginning to end, and seeing Brainiac again, but this time as Brainiac 5 from the Legion of Superheroes, and him having the Legion ring and everything. Again, there's a lot of nice little Easter eggs in this episode that will have fans smiling or curious. For people that don't know the Superman lore, if you watch all 10 seasons, you'll follow it nicely. because the series, when they introduce new characters and stuff, they explain about them perfectly. And then by season 10 is more fan service than anything else, and maybe that's why a lot of fans were not so cozy with season 10, because it was pure fan service. But in my opinion, that's what made season 10 great. It was going back and remembering all the season, why we loved the show. And this season, this episode in particular, definitely reminded us, especially when it was a high school reunion and there were a lot of references to Lana and Lois and Pete and Chloe, and I don't know if Pete got a reference in that episode, but anyways, it was a great episode, and one that definitely for season 10 was probably its best. So with that being said, guys, I'm gonna say, yeah, I love Smallville and all these other shows that have been coming out lately. I think they all owe something to Smallville, because you can see that they're taking a little bit from each one. Like Gotham, to me, it's just another Smallville ripoff, because it's about a young Bruce Wayne, young Commissioner Gordon, before they become who they're supposed to be, which is what Smallville had been about. Arrow, if you look at it, it's kind of taking inspiration from the last 3 seasons of Smallville, where the last 3 seasons of Smallville really used the DC mythology and the DC encyclopedia on to use characters more and have more fun with them. And I think that's what Arrow, and looks like Flash will be doing right too, and hopefully maybe even Constantine. With that all being said, guys, yeah, if you can find Smallville and check it out, I'm sure it's on Netflix. I'm sure it's on iTunes. I know it's on iTunes because I even bought the last season on iTunes when that season was airing. So go check the show out. It's a great show. To me, it still holds up to this day. And you can see that a lot of these superhero shows, even Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., you can see that there's a lot of influence from Smallville in these other shows, because Smallville, to me, was the first one that really kept a superhero show grounded in a certain type of reality. But it also used the comic book lore and comic book-ish qualities to help it feel that way, and it's definitely worth a check out, guys. So go out, watch Smallville, and let me know if you like it. If you don't, tell me what some of your favorite episodes are also, because yeah, I like to know that stuff. I like to know what other fans like and what they don't like, and that's it. Take care.